Hi. I have obviously yet to get out of bed today. I just wrote a post on my subreddit on Reddit, which is Neville Goddess, um, about how, and this is a reminder for me, obviously, as well as brand new info for everybody else. Yeah, right. We all know this. And I decided I wanted to make a video about it because I think this is important and it's helpful if you're struggling. You create your outer reality based on what you identify with. And this is sort of the base premise of everything, I think, in the whole manifestation realm. And it's for me at least, I don't really know how other people come to this exactly. I know a lot of people, get into this from like stuff like The Secret. I think often so most of this stuff, though, we've been doing it without realizing it forever, because it is the truth of the way your reality is created. This isn't how I think most people think of things throughout their lives. Like, this is, in a way, a new thing for a lot of people. And so when you first get into it, you get these big concepts like that. Like, your outer reality is a reflection of your inner reality. So whatever you identify with, you will create. And I think then, you start trying to put it into practice, or you read more, you study, and you start putting a finer point on all the different things that you're learning. And then, you start focusing on things that you want to change or whatever. And it can be easy, I think, to get lost in the weeds, essentially, or to not be able to see the forest for the trees, to just start running through a whole bunch of cliche sayings right in a row. For me, I'm finding that when I'm struggling emotionally repeatedly with the same things, with the same types of things, or things just seem to be piling on, it becomes easy to stop attacking the cause and start going at the symptoms. So, say I'm having a strained relationship with my ex that I own my business with, which I am. I keep coming at it. I've been coming at it kind of trying to be non-reactive and just focus on what I hope the outcome will be, which is that we can just kind of skip whatever this middle section is, where we're just like, our relationship is shifting a little bit and it's uncomfortable and upsetting and irritating for both of us. And, I'm just focusing on the fact that, okay, we have a bond and our relationship will survive and it'll be good eventually. Like, that's what I'm just trying to focus on, so that can come about as easily and quickly as possible. But in order to do that, I'm having to ignore a lot of stuff that's happening, or try to just sort of sit quietly while feeling like shit about something. And having the same thing in a couple of other areas. And what I'm realizing is that I really haven't been tending to the underlying I create what I am reality. That was like something that I got really fully in the beginning, and then started kind of like diving in deeper. And sometimes you just have to come back to the basics and go back to, what do you identify with? And, revisit that whole portfolio of what am I? Because, you can really, I think, get basic concepts and start living from them. But, thinking processes are complex, and you can't always catch everything that's happening. And sometimes you can backslide enough towards part of your identity that you're trying to shift, that it starts affecting your life without you realizing it. And in your mind, you're like, well, I already dealt with that. I think when you're struggling with outward details, like this incident at work upset me, or this person seems like they're acting the way I don't like, or whatever, or I feel like I'm failing at this goal, or whatever. And that starts becoming a point of focus and attention regularly, and it causes distress. I think that's a good time to just go back to the basics and run down what you believe you are. Because I think it can be easy to create from a place of believing that something isn't right with you, without realizing it. And it's important to remember, I think, that everything emanates from you. And honestly, focusing, I think, all of your attention on you is probably the easiest, fastest way to create the outer reality, because it's just simple. Whatever you identify with, you will make happen in your reality. I mean, if you think about it, you know, anything that you really believe about yourself is what your reality is. It's, you know, if I truly believe, like my best example and why I think the money stuff is so easy for me is because here's some factors about like my early life with my programming. My parents never ever talked about money. I never had one moment of concern that there wasn't going to be enough. I don't come from a super wealthy family, but I don't come from a family that really ever needed to worry much. You know, my dad was a lawyer. My mom was a fifth grade teacher, and between the two of them, they made plenty of money for, you know, to not raise a bunch of spoiled brats, but also to never really have to be concerned about anything. And my mom grew up the same way, essentially. My dad grew up poor. And I think that his mentality fed into why I didn't have any issues with money, because I think he really strongly did not want his kids to have the same experience. And so basically I grew up without any concept of lack when it comes to money. Like none. Never, not a single time, not one single instance I can ever come up with where I thought, you know what, that's actually not true. I remember once thinking the washing machine was breaking and I knew a new one was going to be like $500 or something, and that seemed like an astronomical amount of money to me. And I think that's the one and only thing I can ever think of where I felt sorry for my parents for having to buy a new washing machine. But I wasn't afraid they weren't going to be able to do it. But other than that, like I never ever stressed about it. And so, you know, I got older and I just always identified with that state of mind. I felt like that was, you know, the stock that I was made from. The idea of having a lesser life than the lifestyle I grew up in just seemed weird to me. That wouldn't have been right for me, to me in my mind. And so, you know, that didn't play out with me just seamlessly creating that. I went bankrupt. I had a ton of debt. And then after I went bankrupt again. And basically started completely over in 2009. That's when I really started to create the outer reality. And it was so easy. Like once I just got in line with it and stopped screwing around, it was super easy, despite the fact that I was broke and I had spent 10 years always being the person that like couldn't afford to go out or couldn't afford to go on vacation with my friends or, I was always the person that was broke for like 10 years. I never identified with that. Like I always felt deep down, that's not me. Like I am somebody who doesn't worry about money, which is probably why until I got disciplined, I didn't have any because I didn't worry about it. I remember one time going to Bed Bath & Beyond when I was like 22 and just walking up to the towels and being like, ooh, these are nice. I want these. And walking up to the cash register without even looking at how much they were. And they were like $40 a piece. I spent like $80 on towels when my income was like $800 a month. Anyway, that's a long-winded way of describing, I think, how when you really identify with something being a part of you, it doesn't matter if the outer reality is completely different, even for a decade. If you don't identify with the outer reality, then eventually, when you decide, when you have the intention to actually create the reality that matches with who you are, it'll just happen. When I think about the change from going from being broke to where I am now, which is significantly far away from being broke, it was easy. It really was. Like I would just, if I had to pick a word to describe it, it would be mentally effortless. And so, same thing with my weight, almost exactly. I never identified with my higher weight. I felt really embarrassed about it. There are no pictures of me from that time. I wish there were so I could post one. That wasn't me. It was never me. And it wasn't until I really fully decided that I am not this person and it's time to do something, it's time to really make a move here and get off my ass. Again, while the process of going from 190 to 115 I wouldn't describe it as fun in any way, shape, or form. And a lot of that required a whole bunch of mental reprogramming and disciplining, which was also not at all fun. The drive to do it was effortless. It was like I was on a ride I couldn't get off of, and I just had to gut it out. But I knew I was on it. I knew I was going there. I knew that nothing was going to stop me. Once I got on that train, it was rolling. And so that's the identity part of it, I think. And so if, like me, you are struggling with your final frontier or the area of your life where you're having to try to change your identity the most, and you're taxed, and you're struggling, and you're having shitty emotions all the time, I think going back to the I am and focusing on you and what your identity is with regards to the area in which you're struggling, that's the quickest, fastest, easiest, least feeling of swimming against the stream and struggling, that's the way I think to more quickly and easily and effortlessly rearrange the outer circumstances. I think I've backslid a little bit in this area. I was, back when I first started making this channel, sorry, this is getting really long. Back when I first started making this channel, I was talking a lot about how I was spending a lot of time interpreting my negative emotions through the lens of how is this a reflection of me not feeling good enough? And that was really, really effective. Because I found that when you feel bad, it's almost always because you're feeling like you're not worthy or good enough for whatever the thing is you want, and whatever it is that, the feedback you're getting that isn't giving you that thing or whatever. I've definitely backslid a lot from that. So I'm returning there. I am returning to the source to try to fix the thing from which all things are projecting and emanating. And I know it's the right thing to do. And so I just wanted to put that out there.